Hi, this is Chris Brandsma. We're going to be showing how to get started with jQuery with Visual Studio 2008 and ASP.NET. jQuery is a cross-browser JavaScript library. It's designed to make writing JavaScript much easier than what you may have been accustomed to in the past. It is a lightweight wrapper and is compliant with most browsers out there, and it's actually used by quite a few sites, many of which you'll see here on the jQuery homepage, as well as many others, including Microsoft. Microsoft was planning to ship jQuery with a number of its technologies, including ASP.NET MVC framework, and it will be shipping with Visual Studio 2010 and the upcoming release, or the next release, of the Microsoft Ajax framework. So, to get started, there's a couple things you need to do just from the outset. Number one is download the development version of jQuery. That's a good one to get started with. Once you have that, there's another file to download from the site, and it's found from the documentation download jQuery page. You scroll down here a little ways. There's this documentation Visual Studio file. You'll want that as well. To go along with that file, there's another download, and this is on the Microsoft site. And this is a service pack, this is a service pack for Visual Studio 2008 that allows it to read vsdoc.js files. So this file here that you download for jQuery contains Visual Studio IntelliSense hints in the code itself. This service pack allows Visual Studio to read that and display it to you in the tooltips. So, getting started now, here's our first demo. I've created a small HTML page just to kind of show the very basics of how to get started with jQuery. I already have jQuery copied to the folders in the solution in the ASP site, and now to get started all I have to do is actually just drag them into location. So I can basically drag and drop the jQuery file onto the page here, and it inserts the script tag for me. And this is basically all I need to do to have jQuery ready for me to use. Next, my page here has two controls on it. They're inputs. In ASP.NET, this would be a ASP text box, and this would be an ASP button control. But in raw HTML, they're just inputs with the type text and button. I'm doing this just to show that jQuery is not ASP.NET specific and can be used with anything that outputs HTML. We'll be getting to more ASP.NET specific topics on a later demo. So here you can see my notes. I want to be able to hook up these two controls together a little bit. I want to be able to type in the text box, click the button, and have that text display to the user. And I'm going to display it in an alert. So to get started with jQuery, actually what you want is the $sign. $sign is the jQuery function. Okay, so here you can see this. Now, what I want to start with actually is I want to know when the page is done loading. When it's done loading all the HTML and it's ready to run the JavaScript. Lots of different frameworks have their own way of doing this, and this is how jQuery does it. Document ready. So the reason they wrote a wrapper on this is because figuring this out actually changes from browser to browser. So they wrote their own wrapper to go around this. Now, writing jQuery is similar to writing delegates or lambda expressions in C# and ASP.NET 3.5. Much of it happens in functions passed into functions. So here it's no exception. This is actually a event handler, and I can code this up like this is where I'm going to actually put my code. It's inside of this function that I declared inside the ready function as well. So again, $sign was our entry point. It's still going to be entry point. You're going to see $sign a lot. Now, the next most important part to learn about jQuery is the selectors. And you can see that string selector. It is always a string that we're going to pass in. The string format, which is very specific, is something that you should already know if you're doing ASP.NET development or even HTML development, because it's CSS. jQuery has implemented the CSS3 specification, which actually isn't available for most browsers out at this point, but you still get it with jQuery because they wrote their own selector engine. So how would we find something in CSS normally if we wanted to find it by name? Here I want to start by finding the button command. So in CSS I would find this by starting with a pound sign and then putting in the control ID name. That is how I'd find it. Next I want to handle the click event. Here you can see IntelliSense is working, and I get another function that I can put into this method. So what do I want to happen when the click event is fired? Well, that's point 2 on here, is display the text from the text box. So we're going to grab it, the text, and put it into a variable. Again, going back to the $sign, pound, text edit, dot val, or value. Val is how you get information out of inputs on the form. So now I have it. Now I should have the value I want to display to the user. Alert text. And that's pretty well it. That's all I have to do to display this to the user. So now what I want to do is, here's my demo 1. I'm going to display this in a browser and see if everything worked. So here we are, we're loading at the browser. Alright, here's our page. We have our 2 controls. Hello MSDN, say hello. If I click this, I get an error.